Got another pattern from Steve Good I'm going to start on for this project. This is our happy place. Picture of a house. It says this is our happy place. The front is oak. The backer is, I'm going to do it out of walnut. You need something for contrast, I believe. Steve shows the front. This is our happy place in 1/4 inch, and the back is 1/2. I'm going to do them both in 1/2 inch. I already milled up some oak and some walnut. So let me attach the patterns to the wood. As always, I'm going to my favorite scroll saw tape. So easy to use. Just put it on, trim it to fit the board, pull off the backing. Like that. Alright, that one's lined up. The other one the other direction. There's the two patterns. I'm going to take the bandsaw and cut across there, make them smaller, a lot easier to work with on the scroll saw when they're not so long. There's the two walnut backers. As I said, I'll use the bandsaw to cut them so they're at a more manageable length. I split the board in 1/2, and I'll drill some pilot holes for each of those letters. Something I didn't notice, well, I noticed a little crack in the board, but I didn't realize it was all the way through. And when I did this, I found the board is in 2. But I can glue that and put a couple clamps on it, let it sit overnight. And this is going to go to a backer board anyway, so that will not be a problem. So that's what I'm going to do. I grabbed the 1/8 drill bit out of my stash. I've got a lot of drill bits. I've got a backer board, so there's no problem on the back, although it's going to be cut anyway. But better to just always be in the habit of using that backer board. Quick check to make sure I got one pilot for each letter, which I do. So now I'm going to go over to the scroll saw with this, but I will get this glue up done first. Ready to get started on this. I just put in a number 7 blade. It's my go-to for 1/2 inch material. Oh. And this is a Pegasus number 7 modified geometry blade, which I just bent by dropping the top. The Glueup is in clamps right now. I'll let it sit overnight. This is 1/2 inch material. My go-to for 1/2 inch material is the number 7 blade. This is a number 7 Pegasus modified geometry blade. And I'll put that in here. Tighten it on the bottom. Loosen the top. And feed it through. Doesn't really matter where you start. I just tend to be kind of a little bit obsessive doing the letters in order. Hand tighten. Put some tension on the blade. And I like this lighted magnifier. It helps when you're doing detail work. This isn't really fussy detail, but it's small enough. It's nice to have a blade. It's nice enough to be able to see where the blade is and follow that line closely. Number 7 will easily make these cuts. I can do 90-degree corners where they're called for. Some scroll saws feed from the top, some from the bottom. It's a matter of preference, partially. I think every scroll saw I've ever had is fed this way from the bottom. I've gotten used to it. Some people prefer feeding from the top. It's up to you which one you like, or maybe it's a matter of you bought a saw and that's the way it feeds, so you're going to have to learn to do it that way. Let the blade do the work. This is a brand new blade, so obviously it's cutting very smoothly, and the material is running up instead. Make sure you use both hands, rightness of the quick switch. That way you're holding the material down and guiding it. You can see this is not going to take real long. There are some projects with so many inside cuts that they can be very time consuming. Not everyone has the patience for that number of inside cuts. I feel that it's not my favorite. I would rather go after something like this with a modest number of inside cuts. I think this would be a good project for someone that's done a little bit of scroll sawing and they're ready to get started doing some inside cuts. As I mentioned, with the drill press, you can use a fairly large end control, so that means it'll be easy enough to find and thread the blade through it. That's what happens when the blade isn't tight enough. Anyway, it's maybe a good project, maybe not a first project, but if you've had a little bit of experience and you're ready to start doing some inside cuts, there's not a lot of them, and they're not really small. As I mentioned, you can use a pretty good sized pilot hole, so that'll make them easier to find and thread the blade through if you don't have a lot of experience doing that. Alright, there's the word this, and is our happy place, so I've got a few more cuts to go, obviously. The inside cuts are all done. Make the outside. Long, continuous cut, pretty easy. Although you have a sharp corner here, there's more than one way to make it. One would be to just flip the piece around like this, but if you're not real experienced, you could back up, come at it from another angle, and make a cut there. You can continue on from there. Make sure you're doing that in the waist section of the wood. Another steep angle. I'm just going to do it the way I normally do. What you do is you back off a little bit with the blade so it's not cutting. You turn, and then you start feeding the blade into the workpiece again. Probably harder to explain than it is to do. If you're new at scroll sawing, put some scrap wood and a simple pattern. Just do some practice. So you get the hang of it. Don't start on an important project with some expensive wood and get frustrated when you make a mistake and you're afraid to show it, you think work, or it's bad enough that you don't want to show it at all, and you will throw it away. Go. The pattern was a little bit crooked on the bottom, not much. That little bit that it's off, you probably can't even see it on here, but I'll just sand that. Now, this piece here, I make a lot of small items, animals and such for Noah's Arks, and this piece of 1/2 inch that's left over is big enough to make something, so I'm going to put it in my, I used to call it a scrap bin, and I've resolved to call it my small pieces bin, because it isn't scrap if I can still use it. Alright, and now I'll cut the walnut backer. Again, this is real easy, just one long continuous cut. The backer is exactly the same shape as the front, it's just larger, so there's an overlap. So the two are the same shape but a different size. And as we were studying geometry long ago in high school, they are not congruent. How often do you get to use that word? I don't even know where it came from. I haven't used it in 50 years. Once again, back off a little bit. Go. That part is too small. That can go in the scrap. But this part here is big enough I can get several small animals out of that. I'll throw that in the 1/2 inch bin. Now let me show you one of the reasons why I like scroll saw tape. Grab a corner. You can usually get your fingernail on it, even if you don't have much of a fingernail. It peels off like that. That's it. There's no residue. There's nothing else you have to do. It's done. And the only thing I have to do with this is where the corners are. There's a little bit of a rough spot. I could do some sanding, and a little bit of sanding on the back where the blade always leaves a little bit of a rough spot. So that's the back. There's the front. This is our happy place. Like I said, a little bit of sanding. That gets attached to the walnut back for some contrast. This set overnight. Obviously the glue is going to be dry. I'll take off the clamps. Alright, that's done. Looks good. Edges feel good. And I'm going to take that to the finishing room. Alright, this is ready to finish. I built this spray booth out of scrap plywood some time ago. This used to be my darkroom back in the film days. I'll just put this on the Lazy Susan, and I will use a spray urethane to finish. To do this by hand with a brush on finish would be, it would drive me crazy. With all those letters to get the inside of them, you have to have a small brush and be just too painstaking of a job. So, years ago I didn't like the spray finishes. I think either they've changed or I've changed. I'm not sure. Maybe a little bit of both. I'll let that dry. And the thing about, one of the nice things about these two is they dry pretty quickly. I can let that dry for a couple hours and come back and flip it over to the back side. There's the completed "This is our happy place" sign. I think it turned out very nice. The walnut contrasts nicely with the oak, and it should be a nice little item for somebody to hang up someplace in their house.